And welcome back to Waaaghtaktiks. Today, we're here with another Fix My List. So, if you haven't seen this before, we'll talk that out for you. But of course, let's talk about today's sponsors, Baron of Dice. Baron of Dice has helped us do our paint competitions and allow us to support the community. So, of course, check them out. They have great quality, great dice, great orc dice, and the Waaaghtaktiks dice. So, check them out in the description, 5% off because nobody likes taxes. Now we move on to the Fix My List. So, if you haven't seen Fix My List, it's for channel members. They send their list in, and then I go over them live with people in real time so that we can discuss my thought process. Of course, the people send me the list of models they actually own. That way I give practical, applicable advice. Any kind of event details they're going to go to or their personal experience level. That way I don't try to give them some too deep, ideas and get stuck in. Then, of course, if you want to be a part of this, screenshot your membership, send it to me in a DM, and then key units they want to retain on these lists. Everybody has their own flavor, their own units they love, models they preferred. So, of course, I wanted to make sure that I keep those kind of key fundamental pieces on their list as well. So, with that being said, let's go over the first Fix My List. So here we have, I think it's Jordy or Jordy. I think he's one of our European lads. So he actually sent in his Fix My List. He's a bit of a newer player. He said that he didn't know if he wanted to play Tactical Brigade yet. I also don't think that he has all the models necessary to play the strongest version of Brigade, and War Horde is quite potent as it is. So I advise that he stuck with War Horde. So let's look at his War Horde list, and then we'll talk about his key units that he wanted to keep here. So he has Waaaghtaktiks, Waaaghtaktiks Scragbag, 2 Beast Bosses on foot, 2 War Bosses, a War Boss and Mega Armor, 2x10 Snaggle Boys, 2x10 Boys, 2x5 Flash Kits, 1 Grot unit, 2 Mega Knob units. 1 is a 2-man with claws and saws, and then the other is a 3-man with twin kill saws, a 5-man unit of knobs, a minimum size unit of Squighog Boys, and then 3 trucks. Excellent utilization of Snaggas, Maz, Gas. I like the combos going on here. 3 trucks is a good amount of trucks in my opinion. Don't go for spamming, but still enough to get some good teams going on. He said that he really loves Gaz and Maz, and he really wants to keep Snaggas as well as War Bosses with knobs, which no problem there, bro. You wanted to keep all the best stuff for the most part. Maz is the questionable part here. Other than that, great job by there. So let's look at the list that I kind of refined and still stuck to what my Git wanted to keep, and we'll talk about it. So we have 2 Beast Bosses still on the list because they're excellent units. Waaaghtaktiks, Mazrog, and then simply 2 War Bosses. Now, the contention here is I dropped a War Boss in Mega Armor. I did see the ability that you could put them in SWAT teams because you could stick a 2. As you've seen, he has a 2-man unit here. You could, if you didn't want to stick that with Gaz, but I think you're sticking that with Gaz because the fact that it's claws and saws benefits is +1 to wound, right? So I think you're using the War Boss and Mega Armor with 3-man unit, which then it's too big to sit with another unit instead of a truck because they take up 2 slots. So maybe he's your reserve unit. Therefore, I just wanted to go for a nice round SWAT team, and I really do find more value, especially in War Horde, and if you have Gaz on the list from Akari's Lethal Orb, that you get more attacks in, and you just take advantage of having more punches. Volume is always key for orcs in a lot of cases, and I can see you brought maybe twin kill saws for additional AP, so I'm not hating on it. But of course, you still have Gaz on this list, right? Now, I did also reduce one of your boys' units, but you got more units as a whole. So we still have the 3 trucks, 2 5-man Flash Kit units, and then a minimum size Grot unit. I still kept 3 Mega Knobs with Gazgul. I still want you to take a Power Claw and a Kill Saw because it just depends on the target for Gaz and what he's punching into. I think paying for the 3rd guy is worth it, as a lot more stuff is able to chip you, grenades, precision, gets on your nerves if you only have 2 dudes. You can be a little bit more bold and get more commitment out of your opponent if you just pay for that Mega Knob. And you could, because you're playing into a new kind of thing. I see you like Mega Knobs. Go ahead and take the 3rd one on Gaz. I think it's totally fine. And you have the points from the other lack of the character. You don't want to get too character heavy here. You're already paying for Maz, you're already paying for Gaz, you're already getting quite elite. Throwing a Mega Knob boss in there isn't gonna really bring too much other than the possible damage 3 on those some matchups. And of course, a lot of stuff's -1 to hit right now in the meta too. So even with then, you want more punches because, man, knobs, knobs just miss. Mega knobs just miss. Then you still kept, so then you have 2 SWAT teams here for the knobs with the flash kits. And then you have 2 Storm Boy units and the minimum size unit of Squig Hog Boys. Now, you didn't have any Storm Boys on your list, and that was fine. You said you recently just got those picked up. So I was expecting that you were expecting that I was going to find a way to integrate them on your list. I see you have boys on there, multiple unit of boys. I think that's cool. He was using a war boss on boys. I don't even think that's a horrible idea. You know, he doesn't have 3 war bosses. I don't think he owned 3. Yeah, he only owned 2 anyways. So I don't think that's a horrible idea. Pretty cool, but the meta can use just more knobs punching into this list. So Norby, one thing that our Jordy mentioned is that he seems to lack, of course, some kind of firepower because he doesn't have tank busters and shooting. That's cool, but then he, because you can still make the game work without that. But what you would normally want is some kind of speed, more of an infiltration, mid-table presence, possibly Zod and Grotz, or Def Killer Wartrike and Bikers, possibly. Not necessarily always, but you could totally do that, get away with it. I thought with what you had, though, considering you want to keep Mazrog, you want to keep the Squig Hog Boys, this was a good way to keep your list at its core and just kind of move around some points. You can have more scoring and more optimized SWAT team, have better spacing and stuff that fits. And as I look over what he was owning here, again, just as a refresher, I don't see, kind of bikers on here. And yeah, I don't see for commandos, for example, if you're the person viewing this on why I didn't suggest these kind of units for the fact that he lacks tank busters and Ludas and shock attack guns. Why doesn't he play mid-table? He doesn't have those kind of units either at his disposal, nor a Snickrot. So that, with that being said, I thought just keep the list as what its core, what it was already trying to do. 1 minimum size unit of boys is great for sticking. You still want to do that. And taking full advantage of the trucks feels really good for the SWAT team. So, Jordy, you have an excellent list without chasing the meta or hunting down additional units. Having 3 units of beast bosses, 2 units of beast bosses is a really good call, and then having multiple war bosses is a good call. I used to run Maz and Gaz side by side all the time in Index, so you'll have a lot of success and fun at the RTT level, which I think that's kind of what you're going to, or leagues, right? What we were talking about. And he did pick up flash kits intentionally for this. He just really can't get a hold of tank busters or anything else like that. And I think War Horde is just a really well-rounded detachment, especially because you're going to be playing League and you're new. So you don't really need to get too complicated and confuse yourself. Stick to what you like, and carry on, because we also have 20 Waaaghtaktiks gifted memberships from Wicked Joe. Whoa, for Wicked Joe, given out to the community. So if you want, of course, to be a part of Fix My List, be sure you hit me up and thank Wicked Joe for anything like that. And the more benefits and content we're going to be coming forward with. We know that we're in a period where we've been working on all of this. So we look forward to showing it off. And thanks to gets like Wicked Joe, we're able to improve. So thanks a lot, Wicked Joe, and let's get some war bosses in chat for Wicked Joe. And shout out to When I See You Again, You Get. As for Jordy, this was a really fun list to put together because I really love seeing Maz and Gaz returned on the same list. This is a throwbacks to Index Hammer. You'll do fine. You'll do a really good job. Just remember, just be aggressive. Just be aggressive. If you don't got the DACA, then you just got to get close, start crumping some heads. Now, we have my Gladiator. So Gladiator didn't have, as you can see, I don't have his original list because Gladiator gave me an open-ended conversation here, or list design. He pretty much just said that he was choosing between Bully Boys and War Horde. He doesn't really have a list right now put together because he's just been quite busy, but he's trying to get back into things with his brother-in-law. Therefore, he's trying to jump into some events. And for the most part, he wasn't having extreme success anyway. So he tends to like a lot of different tools and a lot of different things that orcs can bring. Therefore, in my list design, I try to give a little bit of orc creativity and utility involved in it and what orcs like to usually play with. But at the same time, there's layers to what I'm trying to present here. That way he can walk into the new meta with at least tools and still not getting too creative or cagey with it. Now, and he did say, he could buy some stuff too if I were up to it. So of course, I'll just say that off the top, if you wanted to start adding some quarter tank busters, DACA, shock attack guns, any kind of DACA assisting does benefit your WAAAGH as a whole. Or like I noticed is you don't have any flash kits in the collection. So when we were trying to do SWAT teams, I couldn't advise certain SWAT teams because you didn't have kind of those 5-man units that can fit alongside trucks, and even the new units like Breaker Boys and Tank Busters that also want to take SWAT teams. Therefore, if you were talking about your budget, what you were willing to buy, I would advise possibly filling out some more SWAT team units or the actual damaging units, depending on how you like to play. But with that being said, now we can actually discuss what's going on with this list. So he did only have one beast boss, and of course, beast bosses are excellent in this meta. Of course, you can see right now that we have a Waaaghtaktiks as a intermediate beginner level player, having just a nice big piece that can play the middle of the table, help your WAAGH turn really go off, layer down that kind of reliability of the WAAGH. Means and having Here We Go means you can take it for his movement, lacking of movement with Gaz and his staging on that go turn. He gives you tools that you don't normally have as an orc player with the damage 4 and the AP, so people can't just bully you with land raiders or big thick stuff or a big unit of terminators and such. Gaz just feels really good for any intermediate new player, especially in War Horde. Therefore, the beast boss goes light alongside him. But something else here that's kind of fun that I like to bring is the Death Killer Waaaghtaktiks. Shout out to Maxon's Index Hammer. Like we were talking about earlier in Fix My List, we want something that can take up table space, that can be kind of speedy and start moving up the table. You don't have a lot of SWAT teams. You don't have, too much that you really want to give up, but you really do want to cover the table. Therefore, the Death Killer Waaaghtaktiks gives you OC. It gives you 4 of Feel No Pain, and it feels you good as someone who really just likes to get stuck in and move around the table a lot. Gives you that one unit that can go either harass the enemy natural expansion objective, or that can immediately go secure your own. Instead of you feeling like you're really limited by very cagey movements with your expensive SWAT teams and battle wagons, instead you have a trike that can actually act as a nice bait unit on that go turn, OC contention, or getting stuck in and standing in the way of just enemy problematic killing monsters or big bricks of kill units. Death Killer Waaaghtaktiks acts as your flexible, oops, I messed this up, this guy can run around and start taking saves on a 4 of Feel No Pain. That feels fun to you as an orc player, and it always did to me, and it fit into what you actually owned. So I appreciated that. Then you have 3 war bosses. A bunch of war bosses. War bosses are good. My Gladiator almost had 30 knobs in his collection, so he could have run 3 by 10 war bosses and knobs. We didn't advise that today, but that's what he owned, so I wanted to do that. So right here now we look at the battle line. Normally I like more battle line units. We could make arguments here, might get for a boys unit finding his way on this list. I'd totally be for it. But that being said, I did intentionally make this a 20-man unit of Snagga Boys. That's because I want this 20-man unit of Snagga Boys inside of the battle wagon. You only have one beast boss. I wanted your one beast boss to get the most utility out of him. And a lot of the time, as a beginner, intermediate player, you can simply be annoyed or run over by units like a Catan. If you get run into one Catan on your go turn and he just survives the combat, you can be very upset as an orc player. This guy allows you that if you run into your friend's Void Dragon, for example, 20 Snaggas, Gaz on the WAAGH, Unbridled Carnage, picks him up, no problem. You're absolutely happy about that. You have your mid-table bully presence. They're up to strength 5, get up to strength 6 on the WAAGH. Kind of helps you contend any of these 20-man units of maybe T3 that could end up being like a Deathcore Krieg unit that your friend has. If you're playing like a league game or RTTs or whatever it is. I understand that there are some exceptional players that run Snaggas at 20-man. At big units as 20-mans as well. So don't think it's just a niche pick based off just your collection. This is actually a good utility piece that runs the table when you're running to demons also, right? Run to a bunch of greater demons, Unbridled Carnage. If one's already damaged, there's a chance you can kill 2 greater demons, finish one off with the beast boss, throw some side attacks on a different dude. They're standing next to each other, have Gaz there from Akari, Unbridled Carnage, re-roll that fish for 5s and 6s, boom, pick up anything that's taking 4-up saves, getting unwounded on 5s by Snaggas. Feels really good. I actually did advise it because, like I said, you're going to be running the intermediate beginner level lists and players. You want to have tools that are really good into that. I like 20-man units to snag us for that. And of course, like I said, they're going in a wagon. You're going to make it a hard case. You can choose to not take a zap gun. I like the zap gun. Quick dice roll. If it goes off, gives you great damage. Don't got to waste your time rolling a bunch of D6 when you're, just trying to play a little faster. Then we have one unit of burner boys because that's what you owned. Like I said, my boy didn't have a bunch of SWAT teams. Therefore, I wanted to just throw the one SWAT team he did have on the list. Burner boys can be a little bit overlooked as an orc player, but there's only 60 points. A little bit of orc bodies, being able to actually throw dice on people and not having to worry about hit feels nice. Better to have than not to have if you're running into, like I said, T3 bodies, stuff that has stealth, whatever it may be. Burner boys are here to just run up and get in the way or just die for the wall. 2 units of Gretchen because I couldn't fit the boy unit that I was trying to fit in. So you got another Gretchen unit. That's okay. It actually helps you reserve your backfield, stop people from dropping in on you, which helps you as an orc player to perpetually go forward. Then you have a commando unit. I think that there's just some particular matchups, especially if you're an intermediate player or beginner player, to where you just will just immediately lose the game if you don't have commandos like World Eaters, for example, which are a very common basic gatekeeper army that people run. They'll just run you down if you don't have something like commandos to run up and screen and then have layers of grots like you actually have on this list. Then you can end up just getting run over and never really getting off your own front line. Gives you your space. I do recommend checking out the videos for that. It does take some reps to figure out where to put your commandos. Nonetheless, don't throw them away is my advice, unless it's in those particular matchups that you have to. Otherwise, use them as scoring pieces and natural expansion holders. Then you have 3 Mega Knobs because 3 Mega Knobs help Gaz just go that little bit longer, get a little bit more of that damage off, take more focus on from the enemy. It's worth that extra points, and it's more forgiving to you as the player that's running Gaz if you have that extra Mega Knob. That way he doesn't just fall, his bodyguards don't just fall over. So like an unlucky Overwatch or something, or just positioning misplay. Then you have 3 5-man units of knobs because SWAT teams are great, and the 5-man units of knobs for just having those quick activations, good AP, multiple punches, volume. You can put 2 of these units in the same truck and just have them come out either at the same time or different times, and then put 1 with the unit in your burner boys. That acts as for your 2 SWAT teams for your 2 trucks that are on this list. And then just to round it off, you have 2 Storm Boy units for scoring. Don't let them die. You don't really have a lot of stuff going on here. Be very cagey with them. They just want to score for you. And then the War Bikers, of course, to go alongside the Death Killer War Trike. Be advised, you want to just practice a little bit on the spacing for this. That dude has a gigantic, stupid base, and there's some deployments that you're just going to get annihilated on if you're not aware of it already. So, nonetheless, Gladiator. Hopefully this kind of fills out some of your needs as a fun intermediate player who wants to go put the pedal to the metal. You have the trike for the spacing. You have the mandos for infiltrating. Behind these layers, you can hopefully get your battle wagon up the table. You can get Gaz into a safe staging position. You can get your SWAT teams out, and then on the go turn, your snaggers spill out. Your SWAT teams spill out on objectives. Gaz goes off, and you get stuck in live. So have a great time with this Gladiator. Whoa! And like I said in the beginning, if there's anything you did feel like getting, you'll do fine without it, but that's it for Fix My Gets list. Now we move on to Admiral Nobeard. So this is Admiral Nobeard and his Fix My list. So he said he had a bunch of different stuff, but funnily enough, my Get does not have beast bosses. He doesn't have beast snagger boys much as a whole. Obviously doesn't have breaker boys, mech guns, Morkanot twigs, kill rigs, and then he put gargantuan squig off like that. So other than that, he was quite diverse. But as for what he wanted to keep, my Git wanted to keep all 30 of his flash kits. Now I've run 30 flash kits. I've run them on Dread Mob specifically. I had a great time with that, and I've been considering this so hard on my own that I was very excited that you actually had this on the list. So we'll look at what your list says, and of course I see the chat. All gets in chat. Whoa! Of course, you guys. I'm reading what you gets are putting down. Like you guys are saying, while talking. Gladiator's actually in chat. And he was saying he's building his trike at the perfect time. That's perfect because I didn't even know you were doing that. So that's great. Then we got Matt. Anything different you would do from normal Horde list if you were putting it together for a teams event? Anything different you would do for a War Horde list? Specific for I'd have to think about that more. That's a good question. I like that cat. Looks like my cat. I would say just off the top of my head, I don't think so because War Horde just does what it does well. you really just want to, yeah, just play Warhorde out how it is, and there's just those matchups that it's going to go well into, just because it has fight on death and the volume of punches. I don't think so. You're saying, is there a skew version of Warhorde? I'd have to think about that a little more. But yes, as for my get Admiral Nobeard, 30 flash gets. Chat, what do you guys think? 30 flash gets, yes or no? Let me know right now. So he has the Big Mech and Mega Armor. My Gets running Tactical Brigade, of course. First time tonight. Big Mech and Mega Armor, Mech Captain. He has a boss, Nikrot, and was the Warlord. 2 solo mechs, 1 with Mork's Cunning. 3 war bosses, and then a war boss in Mega Armor with Squad Leader. I'm making sure I'm missing anything from his notes. All right, cool. Then he has 3 5-man units of Storm Boys, 3 trucks, 3 big breaks of Flashy Gits, a 10-man, a minimum size unit of Gretchen, a commando unit, and then 3x5 knobs. So the idea, what I'm assuming here, is these mechs, at least one of them, because the idea with Mork's Cunning, for you guys aren't aware of how you're running this, be aware. Depending on your TO, some aren't as strict as others, but as this should be ruled according to the rules, Mork's Cunning would not work if your mech was embarked in the transport alongside your flash kits. Therefore, you wouldn't be able to redeploy him, because if you're inside of a transport, you don't want to get access to any abilities at all. Therefore, your enhancements wouldn't work. That being said, let's just say that you didn't put them in the truck. Mech can go in the truck with the flash kits. They get out. The mech gives them an order. If the mech is already out, he can give the truck +1 to hit, taking advantage of the firing deck where all the flash hits are shooting out at +1 to hit with sustain. And then Boss Nikrot, he can give orders on his own. Therefore, he can act as someone else who can boost the flash kits or the commandos. They don't got to go together. He also helps for the mid-table presence, but the War Boss and Mega Armor would go Squad Leader. People think of this as it acts more as like I can hold the space more. With the Mega Armor boss, it ends up causing more commitment. Keep in mind, your commitment is 225 points. Therefore, it's worth murdering you per point. It's just fine for them. They're like, turn 1, I'd eat this, thanks. So you can't give that away turn 1. But what I do like about this list, plenty of Storm Boys, nice multiple units of flash kits. It's funny they're still making a way around, and you got 3 trucks. That being said, just a little bit of a preference here on some things that are suggested changes. So making sure we're looking at that. Yeah, so I just want to make sure there's any more lists that I was notes I was missing that he didn't like, or things that he wanted to keep. Seems like we're fine. As for his list, the changes here, I swapped out that War Boss and Mega Armor with Squad Leader. As you can see, he's not there anymore. And I removed one of those individual mechs that were trying to be there, and Boss Snickrot. So that being said, I have Zagrot Wartsnaga, a boy unit, and then the Super Gretchen on there. Now, the thing that I wasn't as in favor here is the War Boss and Mega Armor ends up making that unit not much more durable or interesting, and its killing potential. It makes them +1 to hit. I'm aware of that. But for the most part, you're not going to be waaaghing on turn 1 with even his initial version of his list. There's not like enough screens. You're not really trying to tank the durability on the guys that are getting out to shoot you, as in those flash kits. Therefore, you don't need to waaagh early, so your mandos are kind of just slowly moving up with a slow War Boss and Mega Armor, who's just kind of like a lot of points investment, makes the unit even harder to hide and more valuable in killing. If you're going into that World Eaters matchup that commandos are there to act as a screen against, or one of these Gene Stealer rush bombs, or these Tyrannid bombs from the Vanguard and fleet, your War Boss and Mega Armor isn't helping that matchup at all. You're just giving them a bigger brick to be killed that acts as multiple orc units. So that's where kind of that went out of play. Also, I think if you were running this kind of archetype, you don't want to overinvest in characters that end up kind of filling out all of your points, trying to get the flash kits going, because flash kits simply have bad matchups as a whole. They just have things that they don't go well into that way, so they can't be your full on I just stop everything type of unit. I kill everything even if I delay enough. If you just simply delay with War Boss and Mega Armor and with the war boss mega armor, and then the 30 flash gets hit out, and that's like the whole fundamental part of your killing of your list along the knobs that are trying to run up the table. You don't really have layers there for OC, and they can keep scoring, and for table space you just have like 11-man unit that's worth 225 points. You know what I'm saying? So I understood what you were saying, therefore I put Zod on the list. The reason I put Zod on the list is because he does the big, I delay you, I can stop a bunch of enemies, but also I can flip OC, I can touch and reach out and touch those gunline armies and touch multiple of their vehicles or transports, stop them from disembarking, stop units from going where they want to go, stop people from falling back where they want to fall back. And it takes advantage of when you actually stage up in that middle terrain piece. You don't really have anything that really wants to appreciate the middle of the table with this list, because you don't have like a 20-man unit of boys, you don't have gas, you don't have a big 10-man unit of knobs for punching, for example. So Zod is going to act as that mid-table. Either they're going to delay and gunk it up from the mid-table, or they're going to run out and touch people in their deployment zone and stop them from even reaching the mid-table while the rest of your army moves into position, like your flash could start to get out and disembark. Therefore, I just thought, keep your Mando. Still got your commandos, right? Because the Mandos work with Zagra in this way, as it's even more bodies and stuff that's getting in the way on the WAAAGH. And the commandos allow Zod to actually have the space so he can still scout up. So it wasn't diminishing. It was actually beneficial, kind of flip out there. As for Snickrot, that's really a preference thing. I'm not in huge favor of Snickrot right now. But, you know, I feel like he's just a little bit overcosted for what he is. And you're probably bringing him to either maybe score a secret mission, but Storm Boys could do that for you. Or you're giving him so he can give orders to Flash Kits to make sure they keep going. But then you already paid for the multiple mechs that were in the original list that were also trying to assist the trucks. I mean, the Flash Kits. So I'm just trying to pull off away from the assets from the Flash Kits so you can just have more units and more stuff, but still have these layers to your list that kind of fill it out. Yeah, so, and then you have a unit of boys. The reason I wanted to give you a unit of boys is I don't think much of the list actually has staying power either, and that's fine. Orcs love trading bodies for points. In that way, I want you to sticky objectives or just have boys that can do boy things. They can do a secondary for you. They can screen something for you. They can get in the way. They can go fight something. They can punch up on the WAAAGH. They can make long bomb charges. There's nothing wrong with just having a unit of boys on the list. So I wanted to give you another unit of boys on the list just so you can have more stuff as well. So you can see the lists are quite similar. I wanted to keep your flash kits, wanted to keep all your the knobs, wanted to keep all your trucks, wanted to keep all your storm boys. So where were the points really coming from for there to be any real changes from? The real changes would only come from your character selection. Therefore, you drop 2 characters and one of the enhancements for a different character that was cheaper to the extent. And then you got more boys and plenty more OC. If you haven't given Zod a try, I highly recommend you do. The fact that you have this mech that's out on the foot, you know, he's going to be able to give your trucks +1 to hit, so your flash kits cannot act in that kind of way, in the way that they want to get kind of moving mobile firing decks. As for my issue with running the 30 flash kits right now, as of right now, is you end up buying 3 solo mechs that are going to disembark at the same time they do to give them orders for +1 to hit. So you might want to also move around that enhancement, possibly. It's really up to you, or you can just have them be out and then jump in a truck. You know, it's not that big of a deal. So flash kits don't wind up being all the end all be on and off killing. You end up kind of getting a little bit too kg for the orders. If you really, really wanted to, there's enough points on here that you can just easily drop that unit of boys, bring a solo mech anyways, and disregard what I'm saying because you really want to give those flash kits orders on the timing that you want to. There'd be absolutely nothing wrong with that. You just have more stuff. You could just pull out another unit of grots there, throw on the list. You have 3 grot units, no boys for no sticky, and then you have 2 solo mechs. I thought that was totally fine as an option as well, just so you can keep giving them the orders for +1 to hit and for stealth. But at the end of the day, I vastly prefer and advise that you take a Zagra over a Warboss and Mega Armor as the squad leader to go alongside your commandos. for that 105 points, you're almost paying for Zod and the additional grots that are coming alongside him, the additional 10 grots that are coming alongside him. You did end up paying for one of those mechs, end up paying for the other unit of grots, but in the terms of how many assets you have that can like play the killing game or the objective killing game or the delaying the enemy and touching multiple of them of the game, which is the whole point of the orcs, having 3 individual characters that just kind of stand around alongside 3 storm boys that kind of wait around, and then along 3 trucks that kind of disembark stuff and then wait around, you end up having just too much stuff that's waiting around, all just in hopes that your flash gets and your knobs do everything while your commandos hold the line. So I wanted to keep the layers you wanted to have in this list of WAAGH, knobs, killing, but I wanted to give you the ability to reach out and touch your enemy, delay your enemy. Don't mind you on how Zod punches, by the way, and acts as a precision character. It's kind of fun too. And I'd rather take Zod as a precision character than your War Boss and Mega Armor, considering the amount of attacks he has, the +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and stuff like that too. So it's just kind of funny in that sense. So with that being said, tell me how it goes with your flash kits, as I absolutely love the idea of running 30 flash kits in this detachment. I've gotten up to 20, haven't gotten up to 30, but my getting Nobeard might actually get me thinking that way. So I appreciate your list and the creativity behind it. Very hard to nitpick this list because you had so many things that I wanted and I would bring myself. But at the end of the day, that's the one big thing, a piece of advice that I give, and to most people right now, is do not underestimate the power of 20-man unit mobs in this detachment. They're absolutely brutal when it's the WAAAGH turn. These guys have a 5-up invul and tell the enemy I can fall back and charge and shoot. I can also give myself another OC. So even if you leave 5 of these grots alive, I will flip this objective and I will ruin your game on turn 3, turn 2. So get some reps in with Zod and 20-man units as a whole in this detachment, and you have a great time. As for all the Fix My List, as you can see, I advised on Mr. Gladiator's list. I mean, Gladiator, my boy Gladiator's list. I advised a 20-man unit of Snagas. And then as for Jordy, he already had multiple units of boys and Snagas. But because he wanted to keep Squig Hog boys, I didn't advise a mob. But in his case, you could also advise a mob of 20 gits to go alongside Gaz or Snagas. So 20-man units are awesome for boys. Get used to wrapping, tagging, touching, kind of swinging your boys with the wall charge. So check out our videos for how to use boy mobs, and I'm going to come out with more updated videos so I can explain all of these things and help you get stuck in. So of course, thank you to anybody with Fix My List that participated. If you're unsure, Fix My List, check out right now on screen. This is how you can participate and Fix My List. And right now, I'll check out what you guys are saying in the chat. So my boy Raul asks, how come lots of lists don't run a third Snagga and Beast Boss? It becomes redundancy to the point that you don't need it anymore and that you lack some kind of other tool and asset when you run that third Beast Boss. For the most part, the 2 guys are ready. Okay, I have a kind of vehicle I can punch on this turn, or I can put the volume of these punches volume of 6 or 7 punches into this other unit and assist someone else and bring this down. It's fine. In other cases, you want more EP, you want more WAAGH, you want more OC, you want more bodies. So it's not that it's horrible. I think you could just totally pull it off. It's just that a lot of the time, at least from my personal experience of what I'm discussing with other people, having a 2 of having 1 is none, having 2 is some. But for orcs, if you just have 2 of a lot of different tools, then you have a lot of redundancy in a lot of our tools. It becomes brutal. For example, bring 2 beast bosses, then you bring 2 units of mobs of boys, and then 2 tank buster units, or you bring a mob of boys and you bring Zod. Well, now you have 2 devastating wound, volume of puncher guys. You have 2 anti-tank reaching out, shooting, damage 3 units, and then you have 2 OC flipping, mid-table bullying, wrapping and tagging gunline bodies as well. So you have redundancy in these tools that the enemy can't just blow one away. There's another one right behind it, and then there's another thing that can kill me in that redundancy. Therefore, having 2 of stuff seems to be a huge means of respect for orcs right now. Now, the most competitive, Sweaty or world level players will of course always argue for just run 3 of it, is because it's the same idea, but they want 3 of the most efficient unit. So they'll run 3 of the breakers, 3 of the tank busters. In that case, I'm not disagreeing with them. I'm saying for most people, you go really far with just running 2 of a lot of different things, and then making it work as well. And this is how you fix my list. So check out fix my list in that case, right? So and then for the boys right now in the chat, let's see. I seen somebody get. Oh, we got Patrick Brown becoming a channel member. Whoa, from my boy Patrick Brown. Thank you very much. So all you guys, don't worry. I'm getting we're getting upgrades right now in the background. In the meantime, we're gonna have great content coming out, and the order markers came on, so we get those pictures up for that as well. Chat. How can I get fix my list? Check it out right here. We do for the channel members, and yeah, and so I talk to the person who I'm fixing the list for the most part, go through some of your ideas and thought process. That way I can get a more personal experience or idea of what you're trying to do here, so I don't take away from your fun. Because what's the point of fixing your list if you don't even want to run it after, or you can't run it after? Oh, my boy Wicked Joe. I'm changing out my bricks of squigs. I'm shrinking them to smaller units and adding double kill rigs. Ooh, okay. You still running War Horde? I think you're still running War Horde. I agree with that. Bricks of squigs are brutal to run. They're so punishing. Enemies can just always focus them down and annihilate them for the most part. The small units are just way more forgiving. And for the most part, at least in my opinion, when you're running like Maz, once the squigs are gone, Maz is still pretty dope. I mean, I've even run it in the Tactics Brigade, and having Maz left and being like, all right, Maz is going to fall back in charge this turn for 1 CP. Oops, he's still alive. He can give another OC. It's kind of cool. So I'm not saying Joe run Tactics Brigade, but maybe you will. But yes, kill rigs are sick. I had for most of the list today, I was considering kill rigs. I really was, but there's a lot of nuance in like staging, placing, where you want to put them on different maps and terrains. So I should do a video just on that particular, to be honest. But that's why I didn't advise them yet. They're like a little cagey. So be cunning, Joe. Be cunning, like always. And then Admiral was telling me about his plan, but yeah, I seen your plan. I can be sold on 15 to SWAT. I can be sold on 15 to triple SWAT team it up, maybe. Yeah, for the flash kits. Yeah, that's how I feel too. The 30 is very flashy. yeah. For me, the reason why I became 10 by 20, like Murder Mouth is 20 is because I'd have a 10-man unit for the War Boss and Mega Armor, plus the 10-man unit. I think that's absolutely best value is the War Boss and Mega Armor plus 10 flash kits, and then 2 5-mans to act as SWAT teams. It does get a bit expensive because I like paying for other stuff like tank busters, 20-man units of boys, maybe a beast boss here, whatever. Therefore, it gets pricey, but I liked it. Or 2 burner boy units to assist on the SWAT teams. What detachment is best to run 3 battle wagons? Ooh, I like that question. The reason I like that question is because the answer is running 3 wagons is absolutely difficult already, dude. You're gonna have some hard table space. I mean, you know how big a wagon is? I feel like just pulling out. Where's my wagon? I'm about to pull my wagon. I think it's right behind me, behind this curtain, and just show it to you. Like, I got a big head, dude. The curtain's like, I mean, the wagon's like as big as my head. All right. So best detachment to run it in. Oof. So there's an argument that Tactics Brigade allows you to redeploy them. Therefore, you can be like, okay, I'm going to overwhelm one side of the table, and then if you don't respect it and you don't put enough DACA over there, then I'll just walk that way. If you do, then I'll just pick up those wagons and put them somewhere else, and hey, here we are. So something innately just says wagon in Tactics Brigade. If you're doing that, then it goes, okay, now what's inside of these things? What am I paying for the price points there? What the rest of my list is trying to be filled out. But you should be a fix my list, and then we can go through it and be like, I have to keep these wagons and then force me to fix this problem. So I'd say to start off, possibly that detachment, that one. Or what you could always do is a saturation overload, where you can say, okay, I got 3 wagons and then I got multiple kill rigs, or 3 wagons and I'm running dread mobs, so I have Gorkanauts and Morkanauts, or a Stampa. I don't know. Actually, the points don't work if you bring a Stampa. Don't do that. Actually, you can do whatever you want. I took Max Killicans and a Stampa, and I had an absolutely great time. So don't even listen to what everybody has to say. But for example, the idea here is you have the saturation of that one data sheet, like toughness, so then you become a skew in itself. But again, the tactics brigade becomes interesting because then you're like, cool, I can give my wagon another OC if they're staying alive and touching your objectives, and they can fall back and charge. So tactics brigade keeps coming to be the most appealing, but there's an argument for like dread mob, and you're like, I take a bunch of grots, and then the grots are disembarking from the wagons, and then it gets hilarious. And then I have Morkanauts behind it for the toughness redundancy, and then I have Ludas for the long range firepower because they're cheap. So you could pull that off too. So I'm saying too long on this question, but there's not too long. Actually, it's a great question. So thank you. Thank you very much. And then we have my boy Murder Mouse. Thank you for by the way, $5. Whoa, for the great triple wagon question. I know the Murder Mouth loves that too, dude. You're probably you're the one. You actually have been running 3 wagons. So he said I had to bench my favorite man's. At least he got the wagons. It's funny you just asked that question, Lewis, because Murder Mouth, longtime channel member, 9 months, one of my favorite gets, big supporter right there. He was running 3 wagons, and everyone in the competitive scene was like, stop doing that. And he's like, no. But he was running Bully Boys, and that means it was even harder because everything that goes in the wagon was expensive. So it's really hard to do. That's hilarious. And he became a channel member. Whoa, so shout out to that git. No, it seems like you like the answer. Yeah, well, it was all over the place, but thank you. I'm glad you thought it was detailed. I'm a new player. Advice with Zod was so helpful. Also, check out the Zod the videos. So I focus particularly on these tactic videos on Zod and commandos and stuff like that, because these are the videos that people advise them, but then in their head they're like, I can't see it. Trust me, give them reps and you can get great value from there. He said, I run Maz solo tactics. Oh, okay. So you're right there alongside what I was saying. That yeah, Maz, I paid for some squigs because I like the squigs, but yeah, it was like Maz running around by himself after, and the leftover carnage was like fall back with Maz. +1 OC on Maz, fall back in with Maz. Everybody's like, I gotta kill him now. Because normally you can ignore him, but if he's just falling back and charging constantly, you kind of can't ignore him anymore because then he makes his way to your backfield. So loved it. So I think that's it. Check out Fix My List. Of course, we're going to do more videos on tactics, so we're getting those worked in. And the next tier to our channel memberships and everything that we're working on. So thank you everybody for being patient. Plenty of video ideas. So if you have any real ideas, check out the Facebook or the Discord. We have an actual channel in Discord for putting your video ideas there. A lot of you guys come out with good ones, even in this conversation we've been having today, were some good video ideas. So with that being said, of course, we have the paint competition, so check that out. We're doing flash kits. Also, with those paint competitions, I'm going to have fun and start making them about lore-centric as well. So we're going to discuss lore on the unit that we're discussing in the paint competition. That way you guys don't have to just stare at my forehead. So that being said, there's only one thing to keep in mind. Is don't cross a wall, because we'll not get to eval. Whoa!